Fantastic. Well, good evening, everybody, or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Julian Freeman, really nice to be here again. It's a long time since feels like a long time since I've done a hangout, and I'm not one of these people for doing, the 140 different, just keeping the whole thing rolling and who can I get to speak to this week. But it just so happened that I've had the most amazing summer, and the most amazing year, really. I couldn't plan the year that I've had, the trips to Salt Spring and meeting Amy Chen and Gabby and spending time with Chip and Elsie and Nick Askew and filming and getting married. Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic as well. And I've really seen something in the course of this year, and that's what inspired me to do this film series, which you've probably seen. It's on the website under a page called Short Films, and it's kind of like short films of great people, but it's about just living. And I wanted to spend a bit more time talking about that, and I thought, well, let's do a hangout. And then what happened was, I don't even know, my guest tonight is the very wonderful Steve Adair. And I don't even, can you remember, Steve, how we got into this? Oh, I think I sent you the links to the films and said, what do you think of the films?
Yes, you did.
And you said?
I like them very much.
Thank you.
No, they're wonderful. They are great. They really caught the feeling and the spirit of the people that you've been filming and what you've been doing.
And that's the brilliant thing about it. The thing that I've noticed very much is it's about the feeling of life, and that's why I called it Just Living. Chipman says to me, and I think he said it a number of times, he just says, just live and be ordinary. And for a while I'm there going, well, what does he mean by that? And it's not a trick question. And the sense I have of it is, have you ever seen a film called Mary Poppins, Steve?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And at the end, they end up, the whole story disintegrates and everybody forgets that they have their stories and their roles and, all those boundaries, and they just go fly kites.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful kind of uplifting, there's a lovely song and the blue skies and there's nothing quite as natural. I don't know if have you flown a kite?
I have, yes, many a time. Growing up in Scotland, you get plenty of wind to fly your kite.
But isn't it a wonderful thing to do? Doesn't it connect you?
Yeah.
So it's just the most amazingly simple end to a film, and uplifting and inspirational. And I was thinking about that, flying a kite, and I remember now the thing that happens with learning to fly a kite is my memory, and you'll have to tell me if it was yours, is that along the way you get into a few tangles, and I can remember a few times flying a kite where I spent more time untangling the string than I did flying the kite. Is that fair?
Yeah, once or twice.
Yes.
Yeah, once or twice.
And so then, but you get through that, and you get to the other side where you can, every time you take the kite out, you just fly it.
Yeah.
And you just get straight into that connection with. Now, that's a great metaphor, I think, for the principles, because I think in my case, and I'll ask you in a moment, but when I came to the principles, I probably had a few tangles in my lines, and I tried to fly my kite, if I can make this metaphor last, with the tangles in, and it was never, because then you got the lines are the wrong length and it doesn't fly properly, but it flies. And I think what the principles, learning about the principles, did for me was it allowed me to untangle my lines. And when you got that, when you can just fly the kite, that's where the joy really is. And the sense that I've got this year is more and more, I spend more and more of my time flying the kite. Just the joy of it being. Monday morning on Facebook, there was a thing I'm talking too much now. I'll go over to you in a moment. Hold on. So anyway, so a lot of people get, I think, stuck in the I am a better untangler than you are, you know? And the untangling is necessary because everybody's got some stuff to, you know, straighten their lines, I think. And that's a really good stage to go through. But what I want to point to people towards with this film series and with what I'm doing now is once you can go beyond that, you can just fly the kite, you know, because once you've learned to untangle it, it's always there for you. That beautiful connection to the sun and the sky and the wind. And does that make any sense to you, Steve?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Julian. And as you were saying that, I also had the image of being really young and really being really proud of having this kite, and then going to this particular field where the wind was always blowing, and wanting my dad to hold it with me because I was scared to, if I was left with it, then I might let it go and it might fly off, and it's my special kite. And it's a little bit like when you were saying there, that's how you saw the principles. And I guess that's a little bit that when I look at the different trainings as a psychotherapist and so on that I did, it was to help other people. And that's what I was doing. My dad was helping me fly the kite. But the greatest gift is to recognize that it's I fly my own. Once you know that you're the person, it has the piece of strings, whether it's one or two, and knotted or not knotted, but you're the person who actually has that. It goes with your flow. You're the one that directs it. Then it flies much more at ease. And so that was a nice little kind of metaphor to grab a hold of as you were saying that. It's just seeing it, that it's, yeah, we maybe have people to start off kind of helping us, but the real joy is seeing from within ourselves of how we fly our kite and how we flow with the winds.
And that's beautiful. And so the big thing for me, the big thing that I've tried to achieve with these films, and there are now like 20 of them, and I've released about, I think, 7. Got another one coming out today, the Amy Chen Mills one. But the big thing about them is that they're not trying to tell you anything. Again, it's not somebody telling you how to fly your kite. What it really is a chance for you to just tune back into yourself. I'm changing the metaphor now, but you know, tune back into who you really are, and that you have the lines, and you can you're in control. You can feel the wind. It's your connection to life.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going for. People can tell me whether they get that, and I hope they do, because I get it as I've been filming, and it's been a fantastic journey. Because if you can imagine just sitting down with these people, and it's not so much an interview as just listening to them, and having the camera running, and then coming back and editing it in the way that seems right to me. And you come out with this kind of beautiful, for me, a really beautiful feeling of life.
Mm.
And the way that then goes, I mean, we started this before this hangout started with a lovely kind of, it's autumn, and isn't it wonderful? And there's a certain light you get at this time of the year in the England, and with the leaves turning and so on. Isn't it beautiful? And people could look at that and go, well, it's totally inane. What are these guys? You know, what are these guys on? They're just sitting there talking about something completely ordinary and getting really, you know, stoked, really enjoying what is totally ordinary. But then, to me, that is the biggest gift of the principles of having this understanding of flying my own kite, is that I can enjoy even the simplest thing.
Yeah. I think that's for me, Julian. We had a conversation 4 or 5 days ago, I think now, and that was really the coming together in that conversation, was to actually see that there hasn't been one moment really since we've been born, where we haven't had the potential to be there for ourselves like never before. And I think that's been the misunderstanding that I've seen for myself very clearly, and also in others that I speak with, is that we've been a society of doers, of trying to fix, focusing so much on the knots, and that's my kite's not going to fly properly then if I don't get rid of the knot, that we kind of become hooked into a kind of repetitiveness, and in that we become very much stuck. And I think for me that's the beauty of seeing the principles, and the simplicity of what Sydney Banks uncovered was to recognize that we are thinkers, full stop. We don't have to go past, well, why do we think, what does thought doing, and these kind of things. It was to recognize that that's where we are getting lost. In my words, that's the understanding that we've kind of get lost in our psychological understandings, is that we have to make sense of everything. And as soon as we make it a thing, as soon as we kind of keep on saying, I don't know about you, but there's a feeling of when you're flying a kite, it no longer becomes a kite. If it's a bird or it's a airplane, it's your bird's flying in there. So you've completely got lost in the magic of the moment. And that moment has never really left us. Even though our thinking may have covered it up, it's still very much being there, bringing our experiences alive with gentleness, sometimes with force, just like the wind. The wind works in so many different ways. And that's very much where our spirit has been at times as well, I see, is that we can be where we have to be really, right, let's get things done, to being very gentle, very cooling, very calming. And seeing it all as being the ordinariness of life, without putting the attachment to it, well, this happens because, or that happened because. And it's seeing the beauty in the moment of, I have within me everything that I need. And if I have everything within me that I need, I don't have to go looking outside for it. It's in those moments of flying your kite that you drop behind your present day thinking. You may have a little bit of thought patterns going on that it's got you a little bit low, but in that moment you would soon forget. And that just allows us to see the illusionary nature of thought, full stop. And I find myself saying that more and more, and the reason why I say full stop is because anything after the fact can only be the ego. And the ego can only rely on all old stories that we've hashed through and through and through. But just seeing it as being the full stop allows us to be in that moment of the kite, allows us to be in the moment of the magic of you were sharing with the people that you've been interviewing, the moment that you and I dropped in without any planning, reminds us that there's our true nature flowing. We didn't have to do anything. We hadn't spoke to each other for a while, and then we just went into a flow. But the feeling that was there, for me, is the part that really excites me when we begin to point about the principles, because it's in that feeling that we truly understand the nature, I believe, of what Sid was talking to, that everything is really, we experience all of our life through thought. Thought is the gift that we've got. So for instance, if I didn't look outside, if I didn't hear, then I would just be really completely tuned into my world. But I can look through my senses. I can use the senses, and I can see that there's Julian there. I can hear you. I can see what's going on. We're gifted in that way also. But we've become so reliant on that we've forgot that what drives thought, what is even behind that? And that's what I love looking at. It's really fascinated me more and more when Sid talks about the divine thought, divine mind, and divine consciousness. And I'd gone out for a walk the other day with Tony, and we'd sat on this little bench with the dog, and we were talking about mind, thought, and consciousness, and what does it really mean? Because sometimes I feel as if I really have an understanding, and then it's like, oh my God, I know nothing. And I love that I know nothing, because I know that almost from the wellspring of my soul, the knowledge that I am will come forward. So I always know there's an excitable moment ready to flourish then. But I started telling the story of, like, you know, I remember seeing, it was a Canadian researcher was actually looking at trees that was being cut down, and what she found was that when they're actually chopping down trees, or if a tree's kind of dying, there is a special root that it actually grows, and it sends its healing, its life force to the young trees growing around it. So as it's actually knowing that its life force is coming to an end, it sends that. Now that truly amazed me. And then I was saying, and it's like the story of looking at this other one where in Africa, they'd done research on these trees, and they'd found that there was this group of trees that had the intelligence that when elephants came along, or giraffes, and were going to eat their berries or their fruits, they would send signals again underground, and the other ones would turn the leaves poisonous so that the animals wouldn't eat them. Now that really got me intrigued. Now when I was sitting talking about that, and it just really hit me again, it was like, oh my goodness, when we hear so much that it's not about the words, it's behind the words. In that moment, because I says to Tony, do trees talk? They don't. Do they have our language? Can they speak cognizant to one another? And in that moment, what I saw was that they don't have to have the made up words. They go with the feeling of vibration. And it's that feeling of vibration that they send to one another that we also send to one another ourselves. But we have got kind of into our thinking that we've forgot that we can send that natural ability. So in the divine, that's why when Sid would say, it's not in my words, it's truly in the divine that we recognize that there is no separation. When you hear him talk about the great oneness, that's why when he talks about divine mind, divine thought, and divine consciousness, we recognize that that's how we understand truly life. There's a true nature that we're flowing through. There's the part when we're flying the kites that we drop into. Not because of the kites, but because that's our well-being. That's how we're built, to actually reset ourselves back to that aliveness in that moment. And what I loved about what you were sharing, there was nowhere to get to but just flying the kite. And the conversations that we have that are really enriched, there's nowhere to get to but be in the moment of that oneness, of that connection. And for me, what I really see is how we're not separate. I think we've really gone into, I think it was last week when I was sitting, we've really gone into seeing ourselves as so fragmented within ourselves and within communities that we're not separate. But as soon as we think that we are, then we can think, I have anxiety, I have stress, I have aloneness, and the list goes on. But the same energy, the same force, it allows that kite to fly around with the wind. It allows those trees to send the energy underground within Mother Earth to give information to one another. We are made of the same intelligence. We are made of that same vibration. And that's what excites me. Like when we were talking about nature, and I was walking around the woods today and I thought, I don't have to worry Is it going to be here tomorrow? Is it going to survive the winter? It knows what it's doing. And even if there's a tree it gets blown down by, we know that it's going to send the energy. It's going to look after. So it's like the natural flow of growing and flowing, where we fight so much. I turned 50 last year, and the amount of people that was saying, oh, I don't like getting older. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of, the more that I'm getting this sense through the principles of who I truly am, I don't see an age at all. I see that we're limitless. And this is a body that we've just borrowed for this journey. And then we'll let that go, and then we'll go back truly to the oneness, true to our soul consciousness. And I'm just loving that.
There's a in the video, in the film that I'm just about to release, Amy Chen's one, she talks about Sid talks about the dying process. And in dying you find what's truly there.
Yeah. And
so he's talking about going through that process while you're still alive. You know, so that's well worth watching. But it'll be live after this. But if I come back, what I was getting from what you were saying there is that when you're flying a kite, I don't know if you just go back to that for a moment, but when you're flying a kite, you're connected to something. You know, it's the wind and the topography and the sunshine, and it's the bigger picture, as Elsie would call it. You know, and what you're doing, moving the kite around with the strings, is you're in the most beautiful dance with that, the most beautiful interaction. And it's something that really draws you in, or always did with me, which is why I loved kite flying. It draws you into that dance and that's one of the things. I mean, if I go back to when we first met and you talked about mind and how wisdom was on its way and everything you need is out there, and it's that dance that I interact, I connect with the world around me, and then it responds and we do this beautiful dance. And that's the thing that I suppose I get more and more, I see more now, and it's just, you just get so grateful for it. You just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just like flying the kite, you just enjoy that moment. It's uplifting, it's inspirational, it's hopeful, and it helps me with things like being creative. You know, I love now. I met Nick Askew. He's not particularly a principles guy, but one of his principles is to come at all of this filming and so on from a place of not knowing. Because the moment that you know something, you've lost it. You've lost what's really there for you.
Yeah.
And so I love that. It's your friend, you know, just that what could happen next, I don't know, is great. And it seems to me that the way this year's unfolded for me, stuff, you know, opportunities came up, things just fell into place. And all I had to do was to step forward, to be who I am, to give my gifts into that mix, and it all happens effortlessly. I kind of understand now Michael Neal's old book, you know, Effortless Success, and I used to kind of go, effortless? Surely there's work involved, and you have to be, you know. And then I tried to kind of put that into the kind of Churchillian, do a job you love and you'll never work again kind of thing. But it's beyond that. It's beyond that. It just, when stuff is happening nowadays. It just seems to fall into place. Or conversely, the moment it starts to be obstacles abounding, it's like, well, okay, you're maybe not headed in the right direction. This is not the easiest way to go. So it makes life easier in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
And now I'm not talking about the tangling or untangling of the kite or the strings anymore. I'm just talking about flying it, enjoying the way it dances in the sky in front of your eyes, to the the movements that you put on the strings and so on. It's that's what the juice that's really there for everybody, I think.
Yeah. And there is a beauty, Julian, in seeing the simplicity of that. There really is, of just seeing that these gifts are, at the beginning I was saying about us doing life. And what I've noticed is it's not even trying to undo, but it's just recognizing it's almost like the unlearning of what I thought I had to do or who I had to be. And just really recognizing that there is 3 gifts, spiritual gifts, which light us up psychologically, physically, give us life in every sense of the word. And that's living through us. That's lighting us up. And when we recognize that life truly flows from the inside out, that we are the keeper of every thought that we have a choice. We get to choose how we show up in the moment. And choosing life in a different way without setting it right, I need to do this and I need to do that, but trusting, just the same as when you take the strings of that kite and you let it go, the wind does the rest. You don't say, right, wind, take it to the left, take it to the right. You just go with it. You just fly with it. And that's what we're saying, that force that brings an enjoyment, laughter, awesomeness in childhood, even as adulthood, flying a kite, that lostness in the moment of truly being allows you to become present in a way that we don't when there's so much thinking going on. And it's that we then get to see how we're thinking without understanding why we're thinking it. We get to see how we react without understanding why am I reacting. We get to see the beauty in the moment. The experience has been fresh because the way that thought flows through, it's so neutral, but the only way we can have exactly the same thought twice is in our personal, full stop. So if we're flying the kite and we're bored, we're fed up, we're getting angry, then we're trying to control. We're trying to go against everything that we are. We're trying to take on forces that we can see are going to do what they do, i.e. the wind. It's a force on its own when it whips itself up. What I saw today when I was sitting kind of pondering on this, the words that came through, which kind of just really shocked me a little bit, it was like, oh my God, I so do that, was that in those moments of seeing how we show up, what came through to me was, I get to stop bullying myself. And I was like, oh my God, who's it? I said that. And that was such a revelation of, in that moment of just how even though we think you've got an idea, there's still insight, there's still a freshness ready to allow us to clear the weather. It's storming up here. Allow us to see that wisdom is not discovered, it's uncovered from within. And the more that we really reside in that. There's a simplicity that we're talking about. Because it's a little bit like saying we're standing in the stream of wisdom, let's say. And wisdom is, there's been a few people saying to me, oh, I don't get wisdom, I don't understand wisdom. And how I see wisdom is, it is the three principles that bring us alive. But it's the wisdom of the ages also. So to me, when I say it's wisdom, it's not from here. It's not from my thinking. It's from the consciousness of the oneness, which to me, it's so wise, way beyond any cognitive understanding that we have, that wisdom just sits so comfortable with me. It resonates beautifully with me. And in that, I see things like the oneness and truth, the truth nature that we are, and how that encompasses everything so that it's impossible to be separated. And in that, I see, if we're standing in the stream of wisdom, and we know that it's coming down and so on, it's like, hurry up, come on, hurry up, I want it now. It's like splashing the water. It's not going to make it come any quicker. It's just going to get us soaking wet. It's just going to get us drowned in our thinking. But the more that we just see, oh, so if I just calm it down, it's going to go. I was saying to a friend the other day, or I was talking to her, and she'd never heard about the principles. So I was kind of just talking around how I was seeing it showing up, and maybe just listening for her health and just sharing. And I say to her, I says, there's a dog up the corner and it's barking its head off. Don't go near it. And what do? You get up and you go near it. It's all right. And it barks louder and louder, and then it's snarling and it wants to get you. But the moment that you go away from the dog and you sit down, its natural instinct is to settle. It'll just settle and it'll curl up in a ball and it'll go fast asleep. And then you go over to it again, off it's not. That's just like personal thinking in action. The more we focus on it, the more we bring it alive with our own negative concepts or limited thinking. And it's just without understanding how and why we do that. It's when we see that. And that's what I love about what Sid, when he saw it so profoundly, it wasn't like, this is what you have to do to be like me. I've never heard the man say that. I've never truly heard anyone who shares this say, you must follow me. And if they do, I don't believe it's the purity of the principles. Every person I've listened to, mostly Sid, has said, don't be a follower. Fly your own kite. Get used to it. Yes, sometimes there might be a knot. How did that knot get there? But you can still fly the kite. And then the next time you go and fly it, you'll see that it's gone, because that's the nature. We don't stay stagnant. If we're staying stuck or stagnant, it's just because we're in our personal. Full stop. And the more that we see that there's these divine principles allowing us to choose life in the moment and in the moment, there is a magic that I don't truly understand, but like we were saying with I see it in action with the woods all around us. I see it in the action when I have worked with the groups and I've worked with clients where their Lady Luck has really gone on holiday and not told them where she's gone. Their luck has been full out, and then out of the blue, they wake up to their true nature. And they just see the aliveness that's been there all along. It's not gone anywhere. But you beautifully said at the beginning, like the sun, when it goes behind the clouds, it's still there shining. Our well-being is still there. It's impossible for us to not be truly in our well-being, even though it may feel like we're farthest away from it. The more we recognize that if we start analyzing, we're only analyzing a false memory. Because we go back to analyze it and we try to make it a reality and understand it now. But I know myself that when I'd met up with a friend that I haven't seen for about 12 years, And we started talking, oh, do you remember what did we do again? Who was with us? And we were kind of trying to piece together the scenes. And then later on, it was like, oh, I forgot 2 people were there. So when we're recalling information, we're not always recalling it correctly, but still we live a life by it. There's the illusionary nature of who we are, that we live a life by a false memory. Now that's so different from flying the kite now. That takes us in a different way completely. But when we realize that we are the one flying the kite, and we're the one that allows us to uncover the beauty from within us, we'll see that there is no anxiety. There is no such thing as stress. That's after the fact. That can only come from our personal identity. Full stop. We don't need to understand why, who, what, why, where. Full stop. Anything after the full stop wakes the dog up. And before we know it, we have a pack of wolves. And then we're screaming for that to stop. Seeing it is allowing us to pick up the kite again. It's like putting the kite down or picking it up. Do I go out there? Is the wind strong enough? Oh, maybe I should stay in. Do I do it? We spend that much time rocking ourselves back and forward, but we're always showing up with a divine mind, thought, and consciousness, flourishing, allowing us to move our hands, blink our eyes, allowing us to do everything. And in that, and this for me, which is truly beautiful, Julian, in that connectedness, the oneness, we truly see that we're not broken. We truly understand the formless nature, the spiritual formless nature. And if we're not broken, there's nothing wrong with us. So that's powerful.
And the really nice thing, and why I love this kite idea, is that when you are flying the kite, you forget. You don't need to know how any of stuff works. You forget. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
Just doing it. And one of the things I just want to put the other side to what you were, because what I see more and more. So you're talking about the dog on the corner and becoming in the pack of wolves, etc., which is I think an experience for lots of people. But for me now, it's much more. I'm seeing the creativity.
Yeah.
When the possibilities come, and you choose to fly the kite in that direction or in that way, and you go with the wind and so on that's there, then there's an extraordinary, simple creativity to life. Things happen.
Yeah.
And that's the way this year's unfolded for me. I never envisaged that I would shoot and edit and put out 20 films. I didn't know what format they were going to be in. I always knew that they were going to be free because it's a gift. For me, this is a gift. It's something I just wanted to give. I can do this and I want to share it with people. And that's quite interesting as well, because if I go back to something else I said right at the start of this hangout, is like about the 5 regrets of the dying. Well, the first one is that I didn't allow myself to be who I am. Well, we've talked about that already a lot. When you let go of how I ought to fly the kite and untangling and all the rest, and you just are in the moment with the kite in the sky, connected, you are.
Yeah.
You're ticking that box big time. The second one, I didn't allow myself to be happier in my life. In that moment when you're flying the kite, when you truly feel the tension of the wind in the string and the sunshine as it goes in and out behind the kite, as it flies across it's perfection. For me, it's like there couldn't be a better moment than that. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember all 5 because it's not a test. But another one is that I wish I'd connected with my friends more, stayed connected with my friends more. And for me, that's what's come out of doing this film series, because I'd love it if, you know, what I'm starting to do now is I'm talking to people, etc., and I go, oh yeah, I've got a little film that I've done about that. Why didn't have a watch of this? And I'd love it if people started to sort of share that. You know, if they saw one of, and there's a beautiful one of Chip Chipman talking about being in the flow, and he's so in the flow as he talks about it. And there's another one of Elsie where she's talking about the certainties about life, and she's not explaining certainty, she is certainty. In that moment, in that 4 minutes or 5 minutes of that clip, you so get that. And with all of these people, it's where, you know, Jan Chipman's one about a beautiful feeling, and the Amy one that I'm just about to put out, her dying process of letting go of what's your personal, you know, of what you think is you, and going beyond that to something way more beautiful. I'm hoping that these films will allow people to connect with their friends. So I've ticked 3 of the boxes, and I can't remember what the other 2 are. But, you know, isn't that wonderful that without having to do anything, without having to, you know, I must remember to look at this list every day or every week or whatever it is and make sure I'm on track, just by living this way, just living, you tick all those boxes.
Yeah. And it really is as simple as living in your own skin, truly living in your own skin. I say earlier on, when I had that kind of insight, is to stop bullying myself. It was like, oh yeah, I do have a tendency to that. Now, my old psychotherapy thinking hat would have been, well, I need to analyze that now. And it was just like, as soon as it came up, it was gone. And there was a lightness. There was a lightness there. And that allows me to live and be more present in my world, which means that I'm going to be more present when I'm with you, when I'm speaking to people, with my partner, even the dog, because that's how life unfolds. We just become much more present through understanding that we don't have to always get it right. In fact, when we set out to get it right, we often are so wrong, because we're going, when we think we have to do it a certain way, is it truly with our heart? Are we centered in that? Or are we just doing it because it looks good or feels right for other people? And I was one that did that, especially in my younger years. I did that. I didn't want to be disliked. So in turn, I would dislike not being disliked and dislike myself. There's a laughter in that now, but at the time, now seeing that, the beauty of it, Julian, when we just live our life, we don't see it as being, oh my God, Julian, I used to do that. It's just, wow, I used to do that. That's how powerful thought can be in the moment. But again, where is it coming from? Where's the grace in it? Where's the beauty in it? Where's the creativity? Without even going looking for it. Because I think the fact that we can get up. I remember listening years ago to, I think it was Marianne Williamson, and I'm going back up 20 odd years. And she does a lot of work on the ego and what the ego is. But she started off by saying, wait a minute here, the ego gets a really bad bashing. But who do you think got you dressed this morning? Who do you think did your hair? Who do you think did? And she turned around and says that that's the fun side of our human personality.
Well, so, I always remember you having a good old laugh, because I was, you know, on the one hand, some of your stories can be very debilitating, but there's this lovely thing that I call nostalgia, where you can remember some really great times, and you carry those stories just the same as you carry all the other ones, right?
Absolutely.
But they're nice.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And then it's seeing it with the neutrality. And it's seeing, because the experiences of going back could be an experience that wasn't necessarily good, but we can still see it as neutral. The same as when we go back, we don't say, How are you? I'm 100% happy today. Because we never stay 100% happy. We're fluctuating up and down. And it's just seeing that, just like the kite will move from side to side. It's just seeing that that's how we're just flowing with a beautiful energy. A lot of people call it love. I love calling it that myself. It's the love. It allows us to flourish and grow. And the more that we see that that's our gift to give to ourselves constantly, then we start seeing from inside out in a loving way. And we start seeing, when we look in the mirror, back in a loving way. But it's all felt from within. And I think the feeling, there was something else when you were saying about the feeling, and there was something else that popped in, and it's gone on there.
Well, great. So let me just butt in, because sure. I'm really glad you've come to the word love, because I put that, and there's a photo that I put up with this event, but us spelling the word love. I mean, it could be.
Yes.
You might think it's a bit cheesy, but
I love it.
But actually, I think it's a rather beautiful photo, and it's if I go back to some of the earliest talks that Sid Banks did, as I understand it, were about love and understanding, and you were just talking about how you come to the world when you're in this place, you come to the world in a more loving way, and that is I think it's really important for us to remember that in amidst all of the media and stuff storm that we get, which tends to focus on the lack of humanity.
Yeah.
That we are full of humanity.
Yeah.
All of us is so important.
Absolutely.
And it's the greatest gift. I mean, we were in New York at the weekend, and we gave a homeless guy, we gave him some money and some food and stuff like that. He was so grateful. And there's another guy that just contacted me today talking about how he'd given somebody else some money, etc. And that again is one of these wonderful signs that you're living, you're flying your kite. Is when the love is like just naturally, when the kindness is just naturally there. And I think that's underlined by, there was a clip that was on Facebook that Brett Chitty put out with Judy Sedgman talking about how Sid took a homeless guy into one of his workshops and just treated him like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of down to that Gandhi, be the change you want to see. If we all moved a little bit more in that direction, not only would it be fantastic for us, but think of what it would do, what it is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the beautiful thing, because as you know, Julian, that's been the background, that the other side of 3 Principles of Life and Soul, where we've worked in the communities, and it soon gets that when we worked with the homeless, and you soon get to realize that, again, that's just a title that we've made up to define something, and you soon get to see that they're living, breathing people the same as us, and that they have the same wants and desires, and they get lost in the same way, and they may have took their personal thinking a little bit more seriously and consequences happen, but you still see that same creativity, that same spark, that same love coming alive within them also. And in fact, more profoundly than half of the people that I've seen, and that's what really amazed me, was that no matter who you sit in front, when we can see beyond the constructs of our society and see that there is health inside, innate health inside every single person, and that the 3 principles are divinely working in them also. When you hear the stories, it just proves, it just shows you that something miraculously have got them through every experience that they've gone through. And when they start seeing that that part has been serving them so well, it's incredible how that changes. It really is. And at times you can feel that it's the extreme, but a lot of the times it's because the life skills that they have, you don't have to teach them life skills, because what they've learned, they could teach us. But of just seeing that we're all doing the best that we can, we're all showing up, doing the best that we can. And what I loved, and it was something similar to what Sid had said about Chip right at the beginning, when he says to him that Sid says to Chip, you will be sharing the principles, and Chip at the beginning was, oh, I don't know, this is more my wife's thing. And then Sid just knew profoundly that he would. So he went up to him and he tapped him on the shoulder and he says, let's just go around the world gently waking people up. And I love that, because I've seen that profoundly. When I had that little bit of insight this morning, it woke me up to another reality, another truth. And we can just see innocently, psychologically, we've numbed ourselves, we've fallen asleep psychologically, but yet spiritually we're waking up. And there's no place to get to in that. You don't even have to go and fly your kite, really, if you don't want to. But when you do, you can have the time of your life and just be in that moment. And this is what I hope that, or it's what I've certainly got out of this, of being reminded that there is the moment to create everything that we want. It doesn't mean it's going to happen there and then, but it's the moment of creation, of knowing that I don't know where it's going, but let's just see. Let's just hang out with myself that little bit more, and let's just see who comes along. And it's through that simple, like what you were saying, you sent me the links. Will you have a look at these clips? I emailed you back. We decided to Skype. And then the next minute we're doing this. Now, a week before that, even the day before that, that wasn't in our consciousness to do that. But yet in some way it was. We begin to see that everything is really kind of in flow for us. And if we show up listening to that, the job's already done. The job's already done. Wisdom has our back. It's when we try to splash the stream and get in the way that all we focus on is getting wet. But when we center down and we keep ourselves calm and we be in one in that moment, we see that we have been guided and protected all along. And it's not going to stop now.
Perfect. I think I'm a great believer in less is more, and I think we've just reached the peak.
Yeah. The wind's dying down.
And that's everything I wanted to have in this conversation. I just wanted to, again, the short films, and this is, it's just about, if you were watching this, are watching it now or in the future, then if it helps you tune back into you, if it helps you see something of who you really are, the simplicity of that, there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to get. That's amazing. Yeah. And I'm going to keep trying for that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing until it doesn't feel like that. But at the moment, that's what I'm inspired to do, just to help give them a nudge to themselves as to back to who they really are, just like you were describing your realization today. So Thank you very much, Steve, for joining me to discuss this, and as you say, the dots that joined to bring us here to have this conversation have worked out perfectly as far as I'm concerned. So thank you.
And thank you, Julian. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Now, just to finish this off, so from my part, after this, I'm going to spend 10 minutes putting the Amy Chen film live. Go have a watch of the other ones. It's on a page called Short Films, or on my YouTube channel. Enjoy them, and tune into you. And how about you, Steve? What's your next step?
Well, my next step, we've been making lots of changes at Life and Soul, and I'm kind of more following my passion of going out and doing more work on my own and possibly working with other people. So my next thing that I'm doing is looking at putting some training together where I'll be delivering training next year, principles-based training. fellowship training. And it's been 3 years since I did the fellowship training with Chip and Elsie on Salt Spring Island. And it just really feels now that it's time for me to immerse with other people in that. So it will be UK based, and I'm allowing Wisdom just to nudge me with that. But watch this space, because I will be releasing this side of the year, because I think it'll probably be January, February of next year. And I'm speaking to 2 of my mentors to look at will they be part of it as we're going forward. So yeah, it'll all be on my Facebook page and Twitter, and it'll all be out there to watch this space. And I'm still seeing clients one-to-ones and seeing them over Skype, and going to be starting talks in the area because we've just moved to a new place. So we're going to be doing monthly talks again. And yeah, just really seeing where life is showing up and flying the kite.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And if you've got a film project, or you're interested in doing something that's filming, that's on this theme of tuning into you, of really helping people see what's in their in life for them, then give me a shout. Or if you've got any questions about that have arisen out of watching this video, just email me, julian@starsofwellbeing.com. And apart from that, I'll sign off and let Steve sign off, and wish you a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, and week.
Thanks, Julian.
Thanks
Thanks, everyone.